There are two kinds of people in this world, those who find their place and those who create one for themselves. Anika Nilles belongs firmly in the second category. She never tried to follow in anyone else's footsteps. Instead, she spent years building an identity that was entirely her own, and in doing so, she earned a place in one of the greatest rock bands of all time, Rush. And that's exactly what makes her story so remarkable. When Neil Peart passed away in January 2020, most fans believed that Rush had reached its final chapter. Neil wasn't simply the band's drummer, he was its lyricist, its musical architect, and one of the most influential drummers the world has ever seen. For countless fans, Rush without Neil simply wasn't Rush. Even Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson hinted that the band's journey had come to an end. They had lost not only a bandmate, but also a lifelong friend. The thought of performing together again seemed almost impossible, but 6 years later, something happened that very few people expected. Rush announced their return to the stage. However, the biggest surprise wasn't the reunion itself. It was the identity of the person sitting behind the drum kit. It wasn't a legendary rock drummer. It wasn't one of the famous names fans had spent years suggesting online. Instead, Rush chose Anika Nilles, a German drummer renowned for her extraordinary jazz fusion style and astonishing technical ability. The announcement immediately sparked debate. Why Anika? Why not someone who sounded more like Neil Peart? As it turned out, that was exactly the wrong question. For years, the rock world had obsessed over one idea: who can replace Neil Peart? On the surface, it seemed like a perfectly reasonable question, but to Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, nobody could ever replace Neil. Neil Peart was one of a kind. His technical precision was almost unmatched. His compositions were incredibly complex, and his musical approach was so unique that trying to imitate him would only invite comparison. Anyone attempting to become the next Neil Peart was destined to fall short. Rush understood that from the very beginning, so instead of searching for a replacement, they changed the question entirely. They stopped looking for another Neil. Instead, they searched for someone capable of leading Rush into a completely new chapter. When Geddy Lee officially introduced Anika Nilles as Rush's new drummer, he explained that the band wanted someone fresh, someone with their own story, their own personality, and their own musical voice. Not a copy of Neil Peart, but someone who could stand proudly as themselves. That person was Anika Nilles. Her journey to Rush was anything but overnight success. She first picked up a pair of drumsticks at the age of 6, learning from her father. Surprisingly, music wasn't even her first career. For several years, Anika worked as a nursery school teacher. It wasn't until she was 26 that she made the bold decision to leave her stable job behind and pursue music full-time. It was a huge gamble. There were no guarantees, no major record deal, no sold-out arenas waiting for her. Only an unwavering belief that relentless hard work would eventually pay off. Her breakthrough came in 2013. A YouTube video showcasing her drumming went viral, quickly catching the attention of musicians around the world. From that point onwards, she became a regular at international drum clinics, taught at leading music universities, and released instrumental albums that earned enormous respect within the drumming community. Although she wasn't yet a household name, professional musicians already knew exactly who she was. She wasn't chasing fame, she was building credibility. For more than a decade, Anika quietly refined her craft while staying largely outside the mainstream spotlight. That dedication eventually caught the attention of legendary guitarist Jeff Beck. He invited her to join his touring band, a powerful endorsement that confirmed what many elite musicians already knew. Playing alongside Jeff Beck placed Anika among the finest musicians in the world. It also changed the course of her career forever. Through Jeff Beck's touring circle, Rush bass technician John Scully McIntosh became familiar with her playing and later introduced her to Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson. After watching her perform live, they realized something important. Anika didn't need to become Neil Peart. She simply needed to be Anika Nilles. That decision would ultimately shape the future of Rush. But earning the job was only the beginning. Performing Rush's catalogue is widely regarded as one of the greatest challenges in rock music. Their songs demand extraordinary technical precision, immense concentration, and exceptional physical endurance. That's why Rush didn't prepare for a few weeks. They rehearsed for nearly an entire year before stepping onto the stage for their first show. Geddy Lee even worked with a vocal coach to recover parts of his vocal range that he believed had disappeared with age. Alex Lifeson painstakingly refined every detail of his guitar performance. Meanwhile, Anika prepared in ways that extended far beyond music. She began following a strict fitness program because she knew a 3-hour Rush concert required far more than technical brilliance. It demanded stamina, strength, and endurance. As the tour approached, the band introduced another fascinating strategy. They gradually shifted rehearsals later into the day until they were practicing at almost exactly the same time they would perform each evening. The goal was simple: train both body and mind to peak precisely when the show began. They wanted their performance to feel completely natural from the very first night. The plan worked perfectly. When Rush finally returned to the stage at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles in June 2026, the performance felt astonishingly polished. Many audience members assumed they had already completed weeks of touring. In reality, it was opening night. The international music press responded with overwhelming praise. Rolling Stone described Rush's return as a triumphant comeback. Fans, who have long been recognized as some of the most demanding in rock music, were equally impressed. Social media quickly filled with comments calling Anika a beast, a monster, and an absolute machine behind the drums. But perhaps the greatest compliment wasn't about her breathtaking technique. It was that she had achieved what so many believed was impossible. She brought Rush back to life without ever trying to become Neil Peart. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson this story has to offer. Many people believe success comes from copying the very best. Yet history shows that those who leave the greatest legacy are the ones courageous enough to be different. Anika Nilles didn't win over Rush because she imitated a legend. She succeeded because she brought something entirely original: her own sound, her own energy, and her own identity. That is why today, many people no longer describe her simply as one of the world's greatest female drummers. Instead, they see her as one of the most important drummers on the planet, not because she replaced a legend, but because she proved that new legends are never created by imitation. They are created by having the courage to be yourself,